friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time, and I'm here for another Monday this and that video where I talk about several different topics, sometimes answering questions, giving you garden updates or whatever it is that's going on around here. So let's get to the topics of today, starting off with the blackberries. So one of the first blackberries that comes in for us around here are those little small wild blackberries down at our other piece of property just right down the road here. And generally those are usually the best tasting berries, but I find a very close second to be the Himalayans that also we allow to grow wild down there at our second piece of property. And those are just now coming in, so I've just started to pick some and hoping to get down there again today if I have time, because I got so many other things I need to get done today. And so that's, that's great. I like to put up a lot for pies and jams and turnovers and more, which, by the way, I have a video that I did, I think last year maybe it was, on how I make turnovers, and I'll put the link to that in the description box down below, which I believe, I don't remember for sure, includes the written recipe, or at least a link to my written recipe that you can access for free. So anyway, then the other berry that we get is actually right here in our little neighborhood lot, and those are the thornless blackberries. Now it is standard for thornless blackberries to get quite big, and some people have got their thornless blackberries and found that while the plants are big and prolific and put out a lot of really big berries, they're not crazy about the flavor. And I wasn't the first few years either. However, I found as the years go by, the berries are getting better, they're getting sweeter, they're just having a better flavor. While they may still not totally compare to the ones that grow wild down at our other piece, the flavor is definitely better, and the grandkids and me, I enjoy snacking on them. Now, one other drawback to the thornless blackberry that you may find is that they tend to be more seedy. Well, it's not that they have more seeds, it's that the seeds are bigger. So you may not like them at all, even if the flavor is great, simply because of that. However, I tend to like the seeds. I don't mind them. But because of that, the size of those seeds, I am less likely to use those in jams and pies, but rather just throw them into smoothies I make for a frozen treat, sometimes mixing them with other fruit. But I wanted to touch on a couple other things in regards to the thornless berries. Well, first of all, the ones I have, the reason I have them in the first place is it was a plant that was gifted to me by my brother-in-law several years back before he passed away. And it was just a really kind gesture that he did because he knew I was getting very serious into gardening. And he would do things like that. Like, here's something that you might like for your garden. And for that reason alone, I would probably never get rid of them. But thankfully, I have found that since through the years, the flavor is getting better. I am definitely enjoying growing them better because of that. And like one person suggested it could be that they found that as a blackberries age, I don't know if she means the blackberries, the fruit themselves after they've set, or if she means the plant, but that the fruit gets better. Now that could just naturally be a part of it. My thought is that since my chickens hang around all year round right at where those blackberries grow, they're not ever fenced off from that area. That means they're allowed to eat any of the ones that grow low to the ground, and I'm totally cool with that. They love it. It gives them something else that they can forage for, but there's usually plenty enough that grow higher up or come through our grapevines up onto the deck, and that makes it even easier for the grandbabies to get a hold of. So my thought is that maybe because through time the chickens down there digging around and leaving their fertilizer behind, that could be contributing to the fact that the flavor of the berries has gotten better over the years. So if you've purchased thornless blackberry plants and in the first couple of years you're just not thrilled with the flavor, Just give it time before you rip them all out, unless you're certain you would rather just put a different type of berry plant in there. But things like chicken manure, grass clippings, and the like, even coffee grounds, are really good for your berry plants, and that can contribute to them putting out better fruit. And leaves too. Don't forget that the leaves are edible and usable. They have a lot of great benefits to them, and I have a video I did on that a couple of years ago. I'll link to in the description box down below. Now, one more thing I want to say about the thornless blackberries is in regards to this picture right here that I took this year. It looks very much like other pictures I've taken other years of the same berries. Well, somebody accused me of using an AI image in that. And I just kind of had to laugh, because first of all, I will refuse to use AI for anything. Even when I'm looking stuff up and then the AI generated response just pops up right to the top. As soon as I see that's what it is, I scroll past it. I don't trust it. I don't trust it. It may be right, it may be wrong, but I'll tell you this. When it comes to making photos, thumbnails, and video content, I will not use AI. I refuse to do that. So I guess I could take it as a compliment, because those berries must have looked so perfect and the coloring so good that they just stood out. But I didn't do anything special to the picture. Sometimes I try to brighten an image if it's too dark, but I never try to alter an image to make it look different than it looks in real life. And I know I didn't do anything to that one other than maybe crop it a little bit. So that one it just had to do with the lighting of where I was standing. And yeah, that was a completely real image. Again, I will not use AI. And while initially I was kind of offended, I realized, you know what, I should take that as a compliment, that they thought my image and my blackberries look so good that they must be AI. So anyway, the next thing I wanted to talk about was the fajitas. So you might have seen the short that I put out recently. Now, they might not be done the traditional style that you would get in a restaurant or something like that. However, whenever I make steak fajitas, it's because we have leftover steak. And in fact, sometimes I'll intentionally barbecue up more steak than I know that we can eat, just so that I can use that leftover steak for making fajitas later on in the week. And so I do have a video. In fact, it's one that I think last year I remastered on how to make your own flour tortillas, that I'll link to in the description box down below. So for years now, I've always made my own tortillas. And so I do that. I cut up the steak. If I have some fresh bell peppers on hand, I'll use those, and onions, and add some of my homemade salsa to it, maybe some other seasonings such as chili powder and cumin. And then, of course, garlic, got to have that in there. And then I just kind of saute everything together and then just put it in one of my flour tortillas. It's just an easy way to have if you're already barbecuing steaks, or if you just go, wow, I cooked up more steaks than I needed, turn them into fajitas the next night or even a couple nights later. It's really a great way to use up the steaks, and it's pretty simple. The other thing I wanted to say about those steak fajitas that I tried for the first time in regards to making that was that since I didn't have any bell peppers, and I typically like bell peppers with our fajitas, I remembered I had all those dehydrated mini bell peppers I get from Misfits Market, the organic ones, that I had put up. I dried and put them up to throw into soups or whatever. And I thought, I'm going to try again using these, because when I've tried to use them before for things like that, they were just a little too chewy. And so I thought this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them in a little pot with some water and some salt and stick them in the solar oven, since it was a nice day, and just let them cook in there all day until I need them. And that did it. I mean, they fully rehydrated. They were tender. They worked great in the steak fajitas. And Patrick was a little surprised when I told him those, by the way, had been dehydrated peppers. And now I know with those, I definitely got to let them cook longer in a liquid, even if it's just plain water, to fully rehydrate. And you're going to find that with pretty much any of your dehydrated vegetables, especially ones that were raw when you dehydrate them, just like the peppers. I tend to dehydrate a lot of stuff raw, so it does take a little bit more for them to rehydrate and then also cook, because they're doing both at the same time. Now, if you cook your veggies and then dehydrate them, they're going to rehydrate much faster. It's basically you just add water, just like I noticed with the soups the soup that I dehydrated last year and then rehydrated it. It only took a couple of minutes for me to bring that soup back to the same state it was in before I dehydrated it, and it was very good. You wouldn't have known it had been previously dehydrated. So just a little tip there. Now, I am thinking this year when I harvest my carrots, I might, before I dehydrate them, though if I'm throwing them in a soup or a sauce or something that's going to cook all day, I've never had an issue. But if I'm looking for something I want to rehydrate quicker to be able to use in stir fries and such, I am thinking about cooking some of them up before I dehydrate them, maybe all of them that I decide to dehydrate. Now, the next thing I wanted to bring up, I've got some of these herbs sitting here. So I just grabbed some random jars that were handy, like right here, some usnea that we gather from our other piece of property down the road. I've got some dandelion leaves here, and I've got some self-heal that I've gathered this year. And somebody brought this up and it reminded me, it was something I had considered, I think years ago, one of those fleeting thoughts you get, and then you're like, you forget about it. And they said, why not just make a vinegar? If you can make your own vinegar and you can use vinegar to make an extract, why not just make a vinegar from your medicinal herbs? Well, initially my thought is, yeah, I think it's a great idea, but I don't know that you would get as strong of a result for the medicinal properties with that vinegar as you would like, especially since it only takes about 30 days to make vinegar. Because like with me, I never ever go any less when it comes to infusing oils or extracting, no matter what my solvent is, less than 2 months. It's got to be a minimum of 2 months of extraction. That's just my set rule for me. I know some people say 4 weeks for this, 6 weeks for that, 8 weeks for that. I just do a standard 2 months all the way across the board. So that's why I would be thinking, well, the vinegar's done after about 30 days typically, and you don't want it to sit too long exposed to oxygen. So you could either cap it and allow it to set for a longer period of time before you strain it out, if you want to strain it out. Or my idea, and I think I'm going to try this, I haven't decided with which herb yet, but I'm thinking maybe the dandelion leaves, or even using my mixed greens where I've got the dandelion leaves, the nettle, and all those other great beneficial greens, and even daylilies. I'm thinking about taking those, making a vinegar from that first. And yes, you can use dried material to make vinegar. I've even done a video on this, which I'll link to down below. I typically like to use fresh, but dehydrated works great too. So anyway, make the vinegar, then strain it out. Then once it's finished, then take that same vinegar, add honey to it if you want it to be an oxymel for a better flavor anyway. Usually that's going to be a 50-50 blend of vinegar to honey. But the great thing about vinegar or vinegar and honey is it can be a great all-around solvent for anyone, including children and people who just can't have alcohol at all. So that is always a great option. And I more recently learned that vinegar is one of the best solvents at extracting the most minerals out of your plant material. So my thought is, you make the vinegar out of those herbs, or that one herb, whatever it is. Then after you strain it out, take that same vinegar, take more herb material, and then do an extraction and let that sit for 2 months. And that, I believe, would give you an even stronger medicinal extract. So I'm going to be trying this soon, and it'll be a while before it would be ready, of course, because if I started it today, it's still going to be 3 months before it's ready. But I'm seriously thinking about giving it a try and then getting back to you with the results. But if If anybody is interested, I suggest just giving it a try. Either way, it's not going to hurt. You're still going to end up with a good product at the end, because if you're going to use vinegar or vinegar and honey as a solvent to make a medicinal extract, well, now using that vinegar that was already made from those same medicinal herbs, now you're just going to make it even stronger. So anyway, just some ideas there. Not that I haven't tried yet, but I really want to. And I thank that person for asking that question, because I'm like, that's right. I was thinking about trying that. And that was years ago, and it totally went out of my brain. Okay, then the other thing I want to bring up is I did a video recently, it was actually taken from a live, on natural hair care. Now, somebody under that video had commented how they've just always used baking soda to wash their hair with. They've done it for years and never had any issues. Well, I don't think I brought up the baking soda idea in the video. And I wanted to make this clear that I've mentioned it before, but a baking soda wash, so you'd use about maybe a teaspoon of baking soda or a little more. I don't remember exactly. It could be like up to a tablespoon. And you mix it in about 8 ounces of water, and you squirt it over your hair, and you use that to wash your hair. Well, that method is really great for people who have oily hair. The oilier the hair, the better that's going to be. However, if you have very dry hair like mine, which is usually most people that have very curly hair have very dry hair, then I do not recommend it at all, because it can be way too harsh for dry hair. And I know this from experience, because I did try it. I can't remember how long it was, a couple months or so. I was doing the baking soda wash and then following it up with the vinegar rinse, and my hair started breaking. It was getting so damaged. Even with following up with the vinegar, which softens and conditions the hair, the baking soda was just too much. So I dropped the baking soda, this is where the idea came from, and started using just the vinegar, because I'm like, well, vinegar is cleaning, especially if you're using your own homemade vinegar made from herbs that are good for your hair, like rosemary, sage, lavender, nasturtiums. Then you're going to have, that's going to be the best option for you. And using that as a hair wash, that as a conditioning hair wash, has been the best thing. In fact, it's all I use today. Every so often I'll use a soap-based product, either my own homemade bar soap if I just need a little extra cleaning, or the Dr. Jacobs soaps, which you can find the link to those in the description box down below, which, by the way, my favorites are I already forgot the name of it. It starts with an O, but that one smells really good and makes my hair very, very soft. The Sensual Manoi and the Clary Sage Lavender, those are my 3 top favorites for washing my hair with. But mostly I just use my homemade vinegar, and it works great. So anyway, I wanted to bring that up, because using the baking soda on your hair if it's very dry, I absolutely do not recommend it. You will damage your hair. But if you have very oily hair, give it a try and see what you think. Now, another thing I want to bring up is this new thing that YouTube has started. It finally showed up in my dashboard this morning. Other people were asking me about it. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. I've never heard of it. And that is called the hype. There's like a hype button at the bottom of each video. It's not available in all countries, but it is available in most countries where people would be watching my channel. Here's the image that I saw in my dashboard. And I was like, well, this is really cool. This might be one thing that might help me recover my channel, getting it back to where it once was. Since, YouTube's just really been stomping down on me. I don't think they're punishing me. I think what it is, my best guess is that it has nothing to do with my content, but has everything to do with the fact that they're about promoting and pushing out videos that have commercials all the way through their content, which I refuse to do. And so as such, my views and my revenue just keep dropping, and it's been going on for, I think it's been about 1.5 years now. And so now I'm down to making about 20% of what I once used to make on YouTube, because at least 75 to 80% of my followers, even though I have all these followers, most of them don't see my content because it's not even promoted to my own followers. So, and it's not just me, it's happening to people's channels all over the place. So I think those of us who just prefer to have nice, clean videos without the interruptions of commercials all the way through them, I think we're the ones that are probably getting sort of pushed down to the bottom, because obviously YouTube's going to want to promote the videos that are going to make them the most money. So anyway, but by hyping those videos, I think Deb was saying you can do it up to 3 times for each video, but it's only available for videos that have come out in the past 7 days. So you've got 7 days if you're watching any of my newer videos that you can do that. And if people don't mind doing that, I mean, I think it only takes a couple of seconds. Please, that might be the extra little boost it would take to get me back up, at least to where I don't feel like I have to completely give up on YouTube and do something different to help us bring in income. But anyway, yeah, I'm like, good. I hope this might be the feature that actually helps. All I want is to just get back to where I was, or even if I just got up to half of where I was, and mostly for the people who follow me to actually see my content instead of wondering, you know, me getting emails and comments saying, oh, there you are, I haven't seen you in months. And it's like, well, I'm still here. My content is just not being promoted to you. So you got to actively go search my channel the 5 days a week that you know that I'm putting out content. And then if you watch my live channel, which is a separate channel where I do my live shows, which currently I'm only doing those on Sundays, then you got to subscribe to that and make sure you're checking for the notification for the live show on Sundays. Anyway, I just wanted to let you know that that finally showed up this morning, and that's what it's about. It's just for the followers to be able to have a little control at helping their favorite content creators get seen more. All right, well, that's it for my this and that for the week. Any thoughts, ideas you'd like to share, please put them in comments down below, because that also does help hype our videos and get us boosted a little bit in the algorithms. And plus, a lot of you have some really great input on various different things, and I learn a lot from you too, and I really appreciate that, and so do the other people who read your comments. And thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.